and welcome to AUC's weekly news bulletin. This is Thilali Gezaz. Today's headlines include AUC's new parking access system, the Waiting for Godot play, and Lafarge Holcim Forum. The American University in Cairo launched a new parking access system on April 2nd. The implementation of the first phase takes place at Gate 2 and 5. Also, through these gates, members of the AUC community will be allowed entrance by swiping their AUC ID. When the ID is swiped to the machine, the parking gates open and the system automatically collects parking money or verifies the cardholder's subscription. The second phase will operate on all gates and it will launch later this year after the data have been analyzed from the soft launch phase information. The security team will monitor the system usage and the optimum implementation for the PAS. Also, the university is waiting for feedbacks from the members of the AUC community. On Wednesday, March 27th, in the Malek Gabr Theatre, the first performance of Waiting for Godot took place. The play is directed by Frank Bradley, with scenery and lighting by John Hoey and costumes by Jane Arnold. Cast members are Yasmin Haggag, Ali Shorbagi, Noor Ibrahim, Hisham Abdelrazak, Reem Shahid, Shahd Nader al-Shatar, and Marwan Abdul Munim. The play talks about two characters, Vladimir, Didi, and Estragon, Gogo, that wait for the arrival of someone named Godot who never arrives, and while waiting they engage in a variety of discussions and encounter three other characters. Additional performances are March 28th, March 31st, April 1st, and April 3rd at 7 p.m. April 2nd, there will be performances at 5 p.m. The 6th International Lafarge Holcim Forum was held at the American University in Cairo Basili Auditorium last Thursday, April 4th. The Lafarge Holcim Forum is a triannual series of conferences on the topic of sustainable construction conducted by the Foundation. It includes workshops and site visits, and it is an academic platform for architects, engineers, construction professionals, and specialists of all generations to exchange information on creating a sustainable built environment and thus advancing sustainable development. The conference accommodated over 300 specialists from 50 different countries. Egypt is the first Middle Eastern and African country to host the event. Audiences of more than 1,200 people were at the event. This year's theme was rematerializing construction through keynote addresses, discussions, and workshop groups. Keynote speakers such as Christian Benz Wagner, Senior Partner Herzog de Meuron, Architekten in Switzerland, Mitchell Joachim, Professor of Architecture and Urban Design in New York University, co-founder of Terraform One USA, and Francis Kere, Principal of Kere Architecture in Germany, were there.
If you're on holiday and you want a good experience, what kind of places do you go to? They're compact, they're pedestrian friendly. Everything's mixed up. There isn't a zone for culture, a zone for living, and a zone for working, and endless roads pulsating with traffic.
This was all for our news bulletin today, but stay tuned for our interview with Hiba Belhaj. Hello and welcome back to AUC's weekly news bulletin. For today's interview segment, we have Hiba Belhaj, political science student, to talk to us about the Palestinian Week. Hiba, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
So, yesterday was the ending of the Palestinian Week, and you had an art exhibition and an open mic for artists to come and showcase their talent. And here's the question. Do you think that it's important to incorporate art in revolutions like that?
Of course. So yesterday we had an exhibition by Visualizing Palestine, which works on research and data analysis and collect them into a piece of art, something visually appealing that transmits just as much information that a report would. And we also had an open mic, for people to show their solidarity, not just for Palestine, but for every other case they truly care about. Art and resistance, art and revolutions and uprising has always been a huge part, and they have always been complementary. I do not think you can talk about any form of a human expression, which are revolutions and uprisings, without talking about arts, and especially in the course of Palestine, a case whose art, whose culture, and whose identity has always been sidelined and undermined.
That makes sense. But before the exhibition and the open mic, you actually had academic discussions and movie projection with Q&A. So let me ask you, how difficult was it to organize it, or was it easy to get guests and professors to come and talk about that?
Palestine Week in AUC, because this is the third time we actually hold Palestine Week here on campus. This year it has been a little bit more exceptional and unique. It has been under preparation for over 5 months with movements all across the globe. And here on campus we've been working on it for 3 months in coordination with the Political Science Association and with the Pulse Department. It hasn't been easy, it has been a little bit challenging, but thankfully the department was very helpful, very understanding, the professors as well. We also had guest speakers from outside of AUC.
The one from Shabaka, I remember.
Yes, Megan from Shabaka and Yusra Al-Ghazar from Visualizing Palestine.
Yeah.
It's been a fun journey, challenging but fun.
So, what about the student? Are you satisfied with their engagement? How's their response to the event?
The first Palestine Week we had on campus, we had to present, at some point we had to present for one person. So seeing a full room all across the days and seeing same faces and familiar faces coming to each and every single event, prepared with questions, ready to be engaged, and seeing the eagerness towards more Palestinian events and more activism on campus has been very, encouraging. So yes, I am quite satisfied with the students' presence.
So you said that the week was organized in collaboration with the Political Science Association, but also with BDS Egypt. So just as a last note, can you tell me what's the role of BDS Egypt in your perspective?
BDS Egypt is the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement. It is a part of the global movement, which is a Palestinian call, a civil society call for people to carry on the legacy of the anti-apartheid movements that took place in South Africa. It basically calls for the boycott, for the divestment, and for the sanctions against the settler colonial state and its violations of international law and its violations of human rights. BDS Egypt was founded 4 years ago, and it's targeting the Zionist entity within Egypt.
Right. Well, I would have loved to, as well as the audience, to get to know more about it. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Hiba, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I am your anchor, Thilali Gezaz, and we'll see you next time for our weekly news bulletin.